Who can even be a bridge to get us to the other side? But I think when we get to the other side, it'll be the other side of realness.
I think Joe Biden has a chance to be LBJ.
Next LBJ.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Alive, I don't believe you can be a Democrat and be a Christian at the same time. I just don't believe it.
That's why you better be independent. You can't be a Republican and a Christian at the same time either. Just ask the evangelicals.
What's up, everybody? It is Monday night, so you know what time it is. It is TFG tonight, and we have some interesting topics tonight. You know, normally on Mondays we talk about social issues and not just politics. So we're going to give you a little bit of everything tonight. And I have a couple of guests on that I'm getting ready to bring on now, but we also might have some other guests pop on as well. So let's get this conversation started. From some familiar faces. Let's see who we have here. There we go, in the green blue room. Tam Watts and Sir Knight, what's going on, peeps?
What's happening? It's the prayers, you know.
Just hanging,
everybody.
No, just hanging. I want to give everybody an opportunity to go ahead and share. We are going live exclusively on YouTube now. And if you would, just share this to your Facebook if you want, the YouTube link. But we're going live exclusively on the YouTube. Change the game up for the 99-2000. All right. So I'm gonna give everybody an opportunity to do that. Let me check out these, see if we have any comments coming in just yet. I'm sharing now. See, guys. I'm sharing. Let's see. All right, so let's get this party started. First thing I want to talk about the RNC real quick, the Republican National Convention. Not going to stay on it very long. Again, don't want to talk a whole lot of politics today, but I do want to talk about the fact that Candace Owens was not invited to the RNC. Why is that, Tam?
Yeah, Tam, tell us. She was Millie Whopper. That's what she was doing.
Come join us back in the field. It's okay.
Hey man, not everybody fits into that whatever that is out there. The Republicans got going on.
Yeah, the big house. Not everybody.
The big house. Oh, hey, what is it? The big daddy, the big house.
Kendrick said she was working in the back. That sucks though. I mean, she's one of the most boisterous voices for the Republican Party, in my opinion. So it's very odd to me that they did not invite a strong black voice for the Republican National Convention. I'm surprised by it. I wonder what black person they're going to have as their black surrogate. Hey, Candace, what's going on? Welcome to the party.
Hey, Dwayne, Tam.
Hey.
Why didn't the Republicans invite Candace Owens to the Republican National Convention?
Why? Because you said it right there. Because she was too strong. Because she didn't fit that mold. They wanted her to stay in the house and go get the drink because they're drinking tonight. That's what they wanted her to do.
I think she's a wild card. You never know what she's gonna say. So even though she might seem conservative at times, you just never know. She don't care.
This is true.
She like Vice President incumbent Kamala Harris. Oh, you want this smoke? You're gonna get this smoke.
I was gonna say, whoa, what you about to say about Kamala? What you about to say about
Hey, look, Kamala about to put everybody in check. Soon as Vladimir Putin get the act, what you say, Vlad?
Right on. Did either one of y'all watch the DNC?
I did.
I watched the first night.
What y'all think about? What you think about Candace?
I thought it was good. I mean, nothing will ever live up to the 2004, I think, DNC, whichever one Obama first spoke at. I will forever be mesmerized by that. But no, this one was good. It sounds like there was a lot of key speakers. And then I know people were surprised to have, I believe, 4 Republicans speak out against the Republican Party.
Right.
So, I mean,
now.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Yeah. To your point, I think it was really pivotal to see the bipartisanship at the DNC. Like, it's unheard of. So it gives me a little bit of hope that maybe we can stop playing politics and actually come together and start working together to form a more perfect union. That's what we're supposed to do. So
And be a real democracy.
And I definitely have to agree. You know, the bipartisanism, and the unity that's now starting to come on out in the fold is key. You know, and like the Lord says, it takes everybody to heal a nation, and until we come together to heal each other as a whole, we you know we're gonna still come into these issues. I mean, Tupac said it too. You know, Tupac the man.
You know, like Tupac.
Hey, me and him got the same birthday, so you know he be speaking through me sometimes.
So let's jump into these social issues real quick and fast. So me and Tam were talking the other day, and some other people I think too, and we were talking a little bit about Tam, help me with this, about how we were raised, and we want to chat a spell about how we were raised. And I am going to say in the Black household. I know we
interesting.
Some of the ways that we were raised by our parents. Tam, chime in anytime. How we were whooped, stuff our mama and daddy may have said to us, stuff they may have taught us or not taught us. We want to examine some of this stuff and see what are some good things that we took from our childhood. What are some things that may have been a detriment to us in our childhood?
So
I think one thing. Oh, I'm sorry, Tam. My bad.
Okay.
I think one thing that I took from my childhood, I was raised by my grandma. My grandmother, rest her soul, Lily Viola Elliott, was a Caribbean country, strong Christian Black woman. And I tell you, one thing I learned about her was say what you mean and mean what you say. Don't be afraid to be honest, and don't be afraid of what people think about you. And as long as you're doing the right things, you doing right by the Lord as best you can. Forget about what everybody else say. Make it happen. She taught me a lot of hard work, and that hard work pays off in the end. So that's one thing I can definitely say that I learned in my household growing up from grandparents to parents. We work hard in the Martin Elliott Thompson household. So
Miss Watt, you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I think I guess just to kind of bring to fold what we were talking about, like some of the things that my parents told me, like I will never tell my kid, like, I brought you into this world, I'll take you out.
Oh.
I'll never tell my kids.
Right.
I'll beat you until next week. I will never tell my kids
We just like get tired.
This ass whooping hurt more than it hurts me more than it hurts you.
You look just like your daddy. You look just like your ugly daddy. Oh, sorry, that's just me.
What happens in the house stays in the house. I think it is even more so something that hits home because we have these community issues within our Black community, but because we were taught what happens in the house stays in the house, we're afraid to communicate our issues. We're afraid to tell people when we have problems, and then we bring that into our relationship. So when you have a mate and you have an issue in your house, you can't even communicate with your mate because you were taught to just shut up and not say anything about the issue. Not talk about the issue when you have it. So it's so much, I think, to really, really unpack. And, when we go into beatings, that's a whole other layer.
Like,
yeah, just want to jump in there?
So for me, my house, I can't say it's the true traditional Black home because my mom, even though she spanked us, it was at a young age. After a while, she did not spank us anymore. And then she always instilled being fair with a lot of things. The only thing that was sort of traditional to a Black home was church. I grew up in a very religious family. I'm a grandchild of a pastor. So, of course, everything that's taught in the Black home in regards to religion is what was in my home in that way. So definitely don't lose your virginity until you're married. You only just need to be at church. You don't need to be at the movies. You don't need to be at no party. You need to be at home all the time in the Bible. So
What's that
so that
Bible verse? Did you
These
remember
things,
that Bible verse I taught you?
exactly. And then when you pray over your food, you say a scripture after the actual prayer has happened. So I would say
oh,
Jesus wept.
y'all cool. So, did these principles that we were taught, do we feel like they helped us? Were they a benefit to us, or were they a detriment to us? Was it
I
a
feel like
form
for
of
me,
slavery?
I feel like for me, it helped some way in how I live my life, but it was detrimental too because I grew up sheltered. So when I got to college, I partied mine behind off, and all that religion went out the window.
Oh
So
yeah, like I think it was a big detriment because, like like Candace said, like I grew up, like I said, my grandmother was like, you couldn't do nothing. Like, no, you're not going to nobody's house. I don't care if you play basketball. You made one C on that program, I'm taking you off the basketball team. And when I left to go to the Air Force at the tender age of 17, when I left my mama's house, I look at here. I thought I got wild in high school, and getting in the gangs and all that other stuff. It went totally through the roof when I went to Alaska and all that. Cause boy, couldn't have no girlfriends until I was a senior in high school. Man, I remember my mama, like no lie, my mama found some underwear in my drawer, some young girl panties in my drawer, and some no and a note that she wrote, and I won't put the expletives out there about what she said. Man, my mama beat me so bad. I was like, but this ain't this what 16, 17-year-old boy supposed to be doing? I mean, I ain't getting nobody pregnant, but you know what I'm saying? Like, what in the world? Like, oh my God.
Is there some stuff that all the things that you experienced in your childhood, anybody that, like Tam said a few minutes ago, stuff she wouldn't necessarily say to her kids, to our kids, that your parents may have felt like they were being helpful or rearing you properly, that actually they weren't, that stuff that you would not say to your kids, Candace?
yeah, like once my mother, first of all, didn't accept anything below a B. So if I got a C, she was upset. And I remember once I was cleaning the kitchen and she was like, that's the only thing you're going to be good for is just to clean houses. And she gets C's on the report card.
Dang.
So yeah, and I felt like she should not have said that. I know, understand she was frustrated with that. Like that has stuck with me my whole life. Like, oh, I'm just fit to clean since I got C's on my report card.
I think a lot of this stuff sticks with us, and I don't think I think while they may have been doing the best that they were trying to do, I think we were traumatized a bit as kids.
Man, traumatizing the word for it. Like, yeah, and you remember like you get so mad with your parents and you accidentally roll your eyes and then it be like, oh God dang it, oh Lord, I didn't even oh. And then what was that saying? Like roll your eyes again, you be picking up off the floor. It's like,
Yep.
That's like that's beyond me. And then like even as a parent now, I have to catch myself because I have a teenage daughter, and I have to catch myself because like my parents, especially my mom, my grandmother, man, like, and you have to understand now that like we can't do those things that our parents did to in their time. That was their time. Like you got beat till you was black and blue. You got beat with extension cords, irons, whatever they can get their hands on. But now these children nowadays, they're a lot smarter than we are, and my mama beat me to death, and the cops over
now,
the house.
I will say this. It didn't come from my mother, but on my father's side, my grandparents, my grandmother was so quick to always call you fast. If you're outside she can see you just talking or playing with a boy, somebody of the opposite sex. Oh, you're fast for playing with this boy. I hate that they did that because growing up, it made me, I was more afraid to interact with boys, and they don't realize at times, I'll just say this, where I'm from, dressing like a girl was considered fast, talking to guys. So a lot of those girls now, I'm not going to say it made them a lesbian, but it kind of steered them in that direction. And that I know some people are born that way, but then other people, because they were always pushed to not interact with boys and to be with girls and to dress like a boy because they were thought to be fast dressing like a girl, that steered them in that direction as well. But people don't want to talk about that. That's like a psychological thing. So
I agree. Tam, you want to jump in?
I don't know how to follow that, but
Tam like, nah, I don't know nothing about
whole
that.
nother conversation. I'll just say that, you know, one of the things I talked to my parents about as an adult was we used to get in trouble. We used to get beatings and, you know, for stuff we didn't do. And once my mom, you know, found out we didn't do it, she never apologized to us. She was just like, oh, well, I probably owed you that beating for something else. Something, you know, you did that I didn't know about, you know. And
Like
I
how?
think that affects you.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think it's another thing because it's like most Black parents think they don't have to apologize or say I'm sorry because they just feel like their kids should just respect them automatically, accept them automatically. But I think now that I'm older and I've had that conversation, they get it. And I'm like, I asked them, I'm like, Mama, like, where did that come from? She's like, oh, my daddy did it to me. You know, so it's very much generational. And I think that whole mentality of beating Blacks into, what's the word? Submission. Beating Blacks into submission has been passed down.
Yes,
and passed down and passed down.
Yeah.
Literally beating our kids into submission because we feel like, oh, if I beat you into submission, you're going to respect me. I'm your parent. And we have to break away from that shows, hey, you can respect me and I can respect you even though you're my child. I can treat you like a human being even though you're my child. So I think we just have to kind of break that cycle of wanting to beat our kids into submission to feel like we're respected by our children, but rather showing them that, hey, I can show you how to be better. I can break the curse here and actually show you that I love you and also discipline you in the right way.
Yeah, good stuff. It seems like a power thing too, particularly if you have a young parents. It's almost like you got parents that's in a younger 20s, 22, 23, 24, 25. They in this whole mode of they ready to fight. They be ready to fight, so they whoop you like they fighting you basically.
Yeah.
And they took pride in letting people know that I beat his ass. I hit him in his mouth. I don't play that. Like it's almost like it was a badge of honor for your kids to be afraid of you, not respect you, but afraid of you. And
I agree. My mother is 17 years older than me, so she had me at 17. And growing up, she was the hardest on me. I'm her oldest child, and it was like she had to prove that she had me in line to other people. And so I think one of my aunts told her, like, asked her, why are you so hard on Candace all the time? And she couldn't answer.
Yeah, I think my mom was like that too. I mean, I don't know what, how my mom's childhood, my mom grew up with her and my two uncles, and I can just tell like the difference in how she treated me as opposed to how she treated my little brother. Yeah, it's a big difference. And, we as parents, like Tam said, you can't do that to children nowadays. You just really can't because there's no room for it because you don't want your child to grow up fearing you. You want your child to respect you. Yeah, there's that natural fear because that's mom or that's dad, but you don't want them to fear you to the point where they can't come talk to you. And I think like I try to do a good job with my daughter, keeping very open and candid conversation. When she went home back to her mother for the summer, back for school, but when I had her for the summer, it was just like, hey, every day when I picked her up from camp, How was your day? What's going on? How are you feeling today? Talk to me. Tell me what's on your mind. To let her know that, hey, dad, I'm your father, but at the same time, you can come talk to me. And we'd have 2 hour long conversation. And you'd be surprised, like what children, especially nowadays, how they feel, how they're more in tune with their emotions than anything. And for a parent, in my late 30s, early 40s now, like it's an eye-opening experience because these children are gonna take us into the future, and they're the ones that are gonna shape the future. And you have to be real cognizant of children nowadays. And the old school thing, that's dead. Oh
Right.
man, you can't do that no more.
How has how you guys were raised affected how you manage relationships as an adult? I
Whoo!
can speak on it. For instance, there was a lot of things that I saw my mama do or my daddy do, or my aunties and uncles or my grandma who lived with us do, that I just assumed that all those things or practices that they had, whether good or bad, were the right way. So I put those things, that was the bar for Tam when we first got married. That was the bar. And I was 21, 22 years old. My mama do this. My mama cook this at this time. My mama buy this at this time. We all shared the same deodorant in my house, at my mama's house, and it was kept in my mama's bathroom. So I can't use your deodorant. My mama let us all use deodorant. Stuff, little bitty stuff like that. It was almost where it created a big issue because I felt like something was wrong with her because she wasn't practicing what I saw as a kid. Any of you guys have any of those experiences?
I think relationships now, for me, like my experiences growing up, because I wasn't allowed to really date, it didn't it affected me going into my relationships. Like I got married early when I was like 18, and I didn't understand relationships. I didn't understand how, and then the adultery that hurt my ex-wife and I committed when I was deployed, and just a lot of different things. So it affected me. So the communication, there was no communication really. Seeing like my mom and my dad not communicate effectively, argue all the time. My uncles, my aunt, my grandmother and my grandfather, rest both their souls, like they argued a lot.
Right.
So it took me until maybe 30 to really break that cycle. And like I said, once my daughter got here, I really broke that cycle because I never want her to think that a man is supposed to treat her that way or yell at her or anything. So it's like now in relationships, even in a relationship now, it's like I definitely try not to do those things that I saw growing up. Although my uncles, they're still with their wives for like 20 plus years, dated them all through high school and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But the effects, it took me a long time. It took me like 20 years to really break those effects of childhood relationships and understanding relationships. And I still don't even understand them now. They're confusing. But it took a while to even get to a point where this is how I want a relationship to be. But it came with understanding who I was and healing within myself from those generational curses and understanding that no, as a man, you don't have to be rough all the time. You can be tough, you can be that alpha male, but you gotta understand your woman at the same time
Absolutely.
too. Like
Yeah.
her opinions matter. And when you look at the Bible, a woman is a man's helpmeet. That's your rib. She came from you, bro. Like, why do you think that you can put your woman down? Why do you think that you can put your thumb on a woman? And that's just not right. That is your right hand. It's not your back. It is your right hand, your left hand, where your blind spot. That's what she picks up at, left or right. So it took a while to break those generational curses for relationships.
Anybody else want to jump in there? Anything that for your
Um,
childhood and affected how
I'll
you?
just I'll just say I definitely brought some preconceived ideologies into the relationship or relationships based on my upbringing. When you have, I have both of my parents in the house, and when you're watching somebody have a partnership and where the man doesn't really have a designated role, the woman really doesn't have a designated role, they both just kind of get it done. And then you're with somebody who maybe sees their mom kind of do everything, does all the cooking, does all the cleaning, does
mhm.
all the things around the house. You can get into a relationship where the expectation isn't a partnership is for you to do all all the stuff around the house. So that can cause conflict. And, one of the things I had to kind of break away with, and Lamb can tell you, because I always expected Lamb to treat our daughter the way my dad taught me. Like, my dad would do my hair. So I'm like, Lamb, why you not doing Taylor's hair? And my dad was like, over the top. This is my first Valentine. Lamb, you need to get, Taylor something for Valentine's, So all the things that were cherishable moments for me, I'm putting that on Lamb. And Lamb's like, yo, I'm not your dad. You do realize that, right? So I think we got to get to the point where it's like, okay, I can't try to emulate my upbringing and bring it into our household. We have to kind of create our own thing. So we have to figure out, okay, maybe there were some good things that I, experienced as a child that we can bring into our relationship, and maybe you have some good things, but we have to really just kind of sit down and have a meeting of the minds and figure out what works best for us. So for us now, we don't have like Lamb expects me to cook and expects me to clean his drawers and all that kind of stuff. We don't have that kind of relationship. We just have a relationship where we have a partnership. So he helps me, I help him. In his strong areas, he leads, and in my strong areas, he allows me to lead. And we just kind of, we work together. But ultimately, I feel like he has the final say as it relates to those important issues. But we have a partnership where we can communicate, and it's not a dictatorship.
Right on. She was out there dropping the motor in the car yesterday. I want to go to these comments. Go back to DJ's comment real quick. DJ's comment said, I didn't realize how much my mom and our relationship plays a part in my relationships, thinking that a woman doesn't love me because I felt my mom did. That is
I have to agree with DJ big time on that one.
Go ahead and chime in, then I jump in. Because men don't talk about this stuff.
Like we men, and it's sometimes it's hard for men to talk about it, because like when it goes back to like how we were raised, don't cry, don't say this, don't do that. Men don't cry. And it comes from, like, if that relationship with your mother, if you really grow up and you don't really have that relationship with your mom, it can affect you in relationships with women, because that love, you expecting your mom to really love and like take that in and and then you get with a woman and you really expect her to but she really like, why you so goddamn emotional? Why can't you are supposed to be a man? So you're like, whoa, wait a minute, I need to love. I need to and it's like you feel shunned away because you didn't get it from your mom. And then you try to pull it from a woman, and not only does a woman have their own emotional needs, but now she got to nurse your emotional needs as a man. And then it's like it's a conflict. It's like it's head button. And then like Tam said, for y'all two relationship, in a partnership, it's like a Libra scale. You gotta balance it out. You gotta know when. Sometimes you gotta know when to pull back as a man and let your woman lead, and when to balance it out. It's never gonna be like I'm always the guy up front and you push her back. No, you gotta balance that thing out. And we don't get, sometimes in a lot of African American families nowadays, you have that single family household where the woman is raising young men, and it's like you said, Lamar, like, you just look like your mother and daddy. He ain't, and then there goes the curses starting right there. You ain't, and this and this and this. So you get into relationships and it's like, oh, you ain't doing this and you ain't doing this, so I'm gonna treat you like that.
Absolutely.
You be like, ugh.
And it's a trigger. It's a trigger. Be like, oh, hold on now.
Hold up. I'm about to.
Like DJ said, gotta let go of childhood hurt. Trauma is trauma. Absolutely. Like, for instance, when I grew up living with my mom, of course, my mom, my stepdad, and we didn't do I love yous very, like, we just wasn't. There was not a lot of affection, and thank goodness that now I don't see my mom without hugging her and telling her I love her and it being reciprocated. But when I was a kid, it just wasn't a thing. Now, on my dad's side, of course, I would go with my dad on every weekend or whenever I would go and be with them, on my grandma on my dad's side, they did it all the time. But so I longed for that affection at home, right? So that's something that definitely affected me as an adult. Also, Let me see. The first time my mom told me she loved me, I always say this. I was 16 years old and I was getting ready to go visit my dad. She was dropping me off at my grandma's house and she told me I love you when I was 16 years old. And it tore me up, right? Because I never heard it, ever. Never heard it. And it wasn't her fault. It's because my grandma. You wasn't seeing no affection from my grandma. None. To the point to where I remember me and my cousin was messing with her and we were like, Granny, we love you. She's like, I don't love y'all. You don't love me. I don't love y'all. She was so hard that she wouldn't let you penetrate that hard exterior. So it's almost like she had to war against it because she didn't want to feel soft. She was like probably the hardest woman ever in my life. She was like me. So that was one thing. The other thing is apologies. My mom used to force me to apologize. I would get a whooping I would take a whooping rather than apologize. So that was something that had a problem with in relationship too. He wasn't about to get me to apologize about nothing. I'm grown. I definitely ain't got to. I ain't about to whoop me. I ain't gonna do it. Now, if I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I ain't got no problem with doing it if I'm really sorry now. That's something that I struggle with tremendously in our beginning of our relationship. Let me get back to some comments real quick and then I'll let y'all chime in. Kendrick said, for me, my mother never married, so there was never a man in the house. So I was the man of the house with a speak, had no idea what it took to be in a relationship. I don't think any of us did. I think what we saw was what didn't even work for the people we watched. Like, we watched dysfunction and tried to emulate dysfunction.
Just chaos everywhere. Like, what is this?
Go ahead, somebody.
I was gonna say my situation was similar to Kenny. My mother was so caught up on her parents arguing so much, she felt like she didn't want to get married because she didn't want to bring me up in a house with parents arguing. So I never saw any of her relationships and never knew how to actually cohabitate with a man because there was never one in my house. So I've been married before. That was my learning there, and that situation, of course, didn't work out, unfortunately. But I have learned from that in my new marriage. Of course, this is a lot better than before. But yeah, me and Kenny, for those that don't know, Kenny is my cousin. Well, Kendrick is my cousin. I call him Kenny. But we come from a lot of similar situations.
Yeah, like watching my mom date throughout my adolescent to teenage years. Like, I had to fight a couple dudes, man. Like, I fought this one dude. He put his hands on my mama, and like that right there, like, I can't stand a man that put his hands on female. Like, that just ain't gonna happen. So, like, I remember I cracked that dude's skull with an axe handle, and my mom yelled at me. I was like, "Whoa, wait a minute, I'm protecting you." Oh yeah, we country, man. We axe handles, knives, whatever you can get your hands on. But yeah, like it affected me because you see your mom go through things, and it's like, why are you allowing yourself to do that? And her and I, we had a whole argument one time. Like, Mom, why are you so angry at everybody, and then you're angry at me as your oldest son, and I didn't even do nothing to you. I've been there at your lowest point, but you're taking that out on me, and then it goes back to affecting you in a relationship where, like, I've been with somebody and I've taken out my anger on that woman for no reason, and she's like, "Well, I'm just trying to be here for you." And when you break down and that shell is cracked, you're vulnerable, and as a man, once you become vulnerable, it's like sometimes you're afraid of being taken advantage of. And like you said, apologizing, shoot, that was not my thing. Who? No, I don't apologize to nobody. The word I'm sorry, nah, bro. But now, maturity, time, different situationships. We ain't gonna say entanglements because this is, we adults. Situationships, you learn to be honest with yourself, and once you become honest, I think that's the biggest key. Once you heal those generational curses within yourself, once you break that trauma and say that I have a problem, and you're willing to admit that to somebody who's going to take it and not so much as belittle you or make you feel less, but it's going to take that and be like, okay, I understand. Well, here's my problems too. Let's help each other grow. Let's heal each other. Yes, you got to heal yourself, but the right person can help you heal. And it may not be like like a whole relationship, but it could be a really good friend, like a homegirl or homeboy for women that help you just heal because they've been through that.
Right.
And then when you get into another relationship, now you can really see the things before they start. Like, oh, yeah, you're right. You know what? I'm sorry. Like I'm truly sorry that I said that, or I'm truly sorry that I done that, because you've been through that situation and you've seen it, and now you understand how it affects the other person to your right. So it's so many things that being raised. I'm pretty sure we're all about the same age around here. I'm still 25. But it's things that we all can learn from each other, and like
Yeah.
this is where we really have to like bond together, because a lot of us probably had the same upbringing. We didn't even know each other just by this segment right here. Now we done cross talk and oh yeah, like I've been through that. Like, but then when you drop it into a relationship, like, dang, yeah, I remember when. Yeah, now I remember how that affects you two being you guys being married. I'm dating currently. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And that's
Because
and the dating thing is scary with this knowledge of our past and our childhood. It's like a coin toss. You getting this person that you have no idea how they were raised, no idea what curses, generational curses they're dealing with, what trauma they're experiencing, and you're bringing your school of thought, and bringing their school of thought, and you clash like a mug trying to figure out how to make this thing mesh.
yep, it's like
That's
you
scary.
like this. It's like, so were you beaten profusely as a child? Yes. Oh Lord, yes.
Right,
Did
right,
you get the date when you were a child? No. Oh shit.
right.
Okay.
You almost have to do that. Tam, you got anything you want to add to this?
I mean, I think I'll just say to your point, like with every relationship, because of how we were taught and brought up as kids, I think it's so important to have grace in your relationships. I think it's easy to get into a relationship where you maybe see your parents argue, and you get into this relationship where maybe this other person has their own baggage and now you're arguing, but because you didn't see good conflict resolution, you check out and you go into the next relationship with your baggage, and you find somebody else with baggage, and you're like, oh, it don't work out, we argue over here too. And we seek this perfect relationship that's non-existent. But I
Yep.
think if we can identify our issues from and raise our kids right, and get to the point where we ourselves are whole before we can maybe bring kids into the world, maybe we can stop the trauma. And I think that's so important, to make ourselves whole, bring that kid into a healthy environment so they don't have to go into that next relationship. Show them how to communicate. Show them how to unpack their own trauma, because they're still going to deal with stuff. So show them how to get through life. So when they that relationship, when the issues come, rather than checking out, rather than resorting to drugs or violence or fill in the blank, they can find some healthy outlets to be able to have healthy relationships, and we can now change the cycle.
For sure. And communication, because I think one thing that we lack, a lot of us lacked as kids, is everything was grown for business. Stay in a child's place. Like, there was no communication. I could see fighting like cats and dogs against the wall, everything. No communication about it. One of them disappear for a while, and we show up a week later, and like nothing never happened. Right. Whereas me and Tam, we don't like for our kids to see us disagree. And if they do hear us disagree, don't have to be a heated disagreement. If they see us disagree and we're going back and forth having a conversation, if they hear it, because sometimes the walls are thin, we make it our business very quickly to have a conversation with them, to talk to them about what they heard and what was going on. We have no problem doing it. We don't pull no punches. We're not scared for them to see us vulnerable and wrong. I'm not afraid for my kids to see me wrong. She's not afraid for the kids to see her wrong. And we apologize to them for even having to experience it. But we talk to them about everything.
Yep. Like I think communication for children is key for them to like grow. You gotta talk to them about everything, whether they like it or not. You gotta communicate with them, because if you don't, trust me, they hear it. They know what's going on.
They formulate their own opinion about it. They either gonna start disliking one of the or having a grudge against one of the parents because they feel like maybe mom's being too mean or daddy's being too mean, and they're gonna formulate their own thing if you don't communicate with them. And we definitely
Now, for me, that's a little hard, Lamar. Now I commend you and your wife for discussing that with your children, but for me, I don't want to discuss everything with my son. He is at an age where he can hear us, and I just feel like there's some things that need to be kept between us because right now he is not ready to hear some of the stuff. So to each his own. But I commend you guys for doing that.
Yeah, I think there's a certain point, like even with my daughter, there's a certain point that I will discuss things with her. I mean, I believe in being open with her, but there are some things that she just don't need to know. Like that, like I tell her, daddy's personal business is not for you to be asking me questions. Don't be asking me who I'm dating and all that stuff. If I introduce you to somebody, that's who I'm gonna introduce you. This is my friend, because there's levels to it. Because yeah, her mama, we're just gonna leave that one alone. But you know, it's just levels to it, and I think, and I agree. Like there are just some things. There's a boundary. That is a child still.
Yeah.
Right on. I like what Shantae said. She said it's healthy for kids to see disagreements, not arguments, but healthy disagreements. They need to know you won't always argue with your mate, and that you can have a healthy disagreement and come to an agreement or not. I mean, that you can do it in a healthy fashion, and you don't hate each other because you're disagreeing. And don't get me wrong on everything. I think there's a way to talk to a kid about a certain thing. They don't need to know every single detail. I guess when I talk to them about everything, if they hear us having an argument, we want to have a conversation with them so they can kind of get understanding on why we were disagreeing and we don't hate each other. Daddy's not leaving again, that type of stuff, rather than going into detail on what somebody that is not the case. Daddy went and slept with Luann, yeah.
Hey, hold up, is that Auntie Julia? Oh, but I thought she was. Wait a minute.
I think to your point, I think what we're trying to help them navigate is that relationships aren't perfect. Yeah. I think, when you're watching these movies and when you see on the outside looking in on Instagram, on Facebook, you see all these nice photos and people be looking like they have this perfect relationship, and then they seek that when they get in their relationship and they realize that it's not that. They don't understand that relationships are work.
Oh God, it's a job. It's a job.
It's going to continue to grow and evolve and become better each day, and you are too. So we really, I think the point of us talking to the kids to let them know that, hey, when you get married, it's a real commitment. It's going to be work. It's not going to be like happy times every single day. You're going to actually have to work for every single thing, not just business, your relationship, every single dynamic of relationships. You're going to have to work to become better every single day. So I think it's one of the main points that we want to get across to them is that perfection comes with hard work, and it doesn't mean it's going to be perfect, but it's kind of perfect. You got to create it, essentially.
Yeah, no relationship is going to be perfect.
So ain't. Yeah. So that was heavy. So guys that are watching, somebody said give them a recap. Well, this is a political and social issues show, mostly pop political, but I try to use Mondays to talk about social issues and talk about the black family particularly, but family as a whole and how we can be better. Build Black better. Hashtag. DJ said we didn't have a say growing up. Kids now have more voice nowadays. Now generation our parents. Right. I agree with that. Yeah. Our kids have a seat at the table. They don't run them, but they have a seat at the table. We want to know their opinions. We want to know their input. We want to know how they feel about things. We want to know how they feel about what we're moving. We want to know how they feel about all the major moves that we make in our house. They don't override anything, but we want to know. We hear their thoughts and opinions. Our family is a boardroom. They direct us on the board. We got a CEO and chairman, but they direct us. They get input. Let's transition this thing while we have a few more minutes left to the political part of the show. We got about 10 minutes. And I want to talk about the wealth. Is there an income gap? Is there a wealth gap as it relates to men and women and as it relates to races, blacks and whites? What are you guys' thoughts on those? I think we know.
Yes.
I think there is a big discrepancy in finances between men and women, black and white. But it's definitely a big difference in the African American household, because statistically and throughout the nation, you have more incarcerated male figures than you in the black household than you do women. And then now a lot of African American women are they're gaining that income and they're CEOs of companies, business owners. They are like leading the charge in our society. And a lot of that I would have to say comes from the way society is built. It has been built to do things to the black man, but then also black men cannot continue to use that stereotype. You have to grow. You have to like get your mindset out of like, oh, it's the man holding me down. No, it's you holding yourself down, brother, because you're not putting yourself out there to rise above what has been put in front of you. So I
Keep that
think
coming up.
it's a large discrepancy, but at the same time, what are we gonna do about it? What are you gonna do about it, man, brother? Are you gonna sit back and be like, well, I can't get a job that pays me more than $7-8 an hour, or you're gonna go out here, you're gonna educate yourself, and you're gonna find that blue collar job that's gonna take care of you and a family, are you just gonna sit and be like, oh, well, I'm gonna be a rapper, I'm gonna be a hustler for the rest of my life? Really? Come on, bro.
Somebody tap on that comment that just came to the bottom. Sam, what you got? Candace, one of y'all. Do you agree or disagree?
I have a lot to say on this topic. And I'm going to start by saying that black males make 87 cents per dollar to their counterpart of white males. Mm-hmm. Black women make 62 cents to their counterparts, white males. It takes a black woman 19 months to make 1 year's salary versus a white male.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's insane.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Tam,
what's up?
I was going to say, speaking of that, not to cut you off, but when I worked in for-profit with Lamar, but at one of the schools I worked at prior to Lamar, I was hired with this guy. We were the same level. He was paid 42 and I was paid 38 a year. So what you said is exactly correct. He was paid, I don't know why he was paid $4,000 more than me, but I actually had more experience than him. But I'll let you continue.
And I think that's just jacked up, man.
I'll keep going with the numbers. Median household for white families is $134,000 a year. Median household for black families, $11,000 a year.
What?
We only make up 14% of the United States. And you would think that with education that would close the gap. No.
Oh no.
It puts us in debt. Still make more than college educated blacks. There's a huge wage gap, and to say to solve for it is to just get a better job. No, we're talking about same role. The only difference is I'm black and you're white, or I'm a black woman and you're a white man. So
well, they try to say generational wealth too.
Yeah, and and I'm not out in the corporate world, but the army is a big depictor of that, because we, African American female officers, me being an officer, they have it 20 times harder than African American male officers. Like, they're automatically stigmatized with the RBF, the angry black woman, this, because they have to work 10 times as hard just to get that rating that myself or white counterparts just automatically. Even I don't even get it automatically, but my white counterparts, they get it, like, because they're part of the good old boy. I'm a ranger. I'm this. I'm that, and we got to try twice as hard. And then my female counterparts, who I love to death, and I give big ups to black female officers, because there's a lot of them that are trailblazing. And I had to give a shout out to my old battalion commander, Colonel Clark. She is an awesome mentor, and it's like they have to try 20 times harder. And it is a damn shame that our women have to do that. And it's crazy, man. And Tam bringing out those statistics, like that needs to be posted like on Facebook.
Right.
Like, look at this. Like,
Alan, you can come on in, man.
Change.
I'm sorry, Adam. Adam, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm looking at comments. Adam, you want to come in to chime in? You got the link. Come on in here.
Lamar, I meant to ask you at Everest, how much did you make there?
38.
Oh, okay. So it was the same. I thought they paid you more.
I had no experience.
See, I had experience, but yeah.
You was a manager before you came there. When you
yes, I was a manager, but I got paid the exact same as you.
Yeah, and I was looking up some research, and they tried to use the excuse of women having to take leave without pay, willing to take leave without pay when they get pregnant and things like that. So there's a lot of excuses that people try to make for it. And also, DJ says statistically, Black families don't pass down generational wealth, unlike other races. The beautiful thing is that narrative is changing now. What do you think about that? Is that part of the issue? Does that contribute to the issue? Do we don't pass down anything to our kids?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we have to pass down wealth, whether it be not only financially, but like houses. We have to invest in ourselves to then push that investment to our children. And if we don't do that, man, like we're not breaking the cycle.
Well, actually, my mom has broken the cycle because the house that I now live in was hers, so she passed it down to me.
Wow!
Look at that! Breaking them chains. Break every chain.
Yes,
break every chain. Yeah.
Mom, I should have had that house.
Dude. What you got, Adam? Jump in there, Adam.
Yeah. This topic, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
I couldn't find my pod, so I gotta yell at my MacBook. This topic, I actually had some colleagues that we basically went on a panel about this, and what we came up with was there are people that's more comfortable talking about what they did with who last night than their actual wages. Like in a company, they'll tell about their date, how it went down, but then when you walk up to somebody, they say how much you make, that's considered rude.
Yeah, for sure.
So there is actually a movement to actually start making people's wages public, because I typed it before where like in the NBA, like, oh man, I got to get to my third year to get my vet contract. I could get the max pay in this city. Portland gonna take me over Oregon. That's because their wages are public. There is actually a system where you know where you're going to be according to how much you work in, the minutes that you play. It's easier to calculate what you're supposed to be doing, and it takes rates and everything off the table. It really puts it onto your work, how much you put in, your time and seniority, all of that goes into it. What we have today in the corporate structure is this blanket where I could pay my friend whatever I want, and it could be something astronomical. Like you see these CEOs who have golden parachutes where they're parachuting. Hold on. They got golden parachutes.
Slip left, slip right.
Parachuting out of there for $6 million and whatever, whether they're good or not. But then you look at like me, I come in the door and I'm just I'm in the mailroom. I'm asking for 20 an hour and they trying to, bat me down like they can't afford it or something like that or whatever. Meanwhile, someone who had a glowing presentation or went to the same college or the same fraternity or sorority, or unfortunately the same hue, says, you know what, I like this person. Let's give them 24 an hour versus the other guy that we did back down to 19. Meanwhile, we could be sitting at the same table, the same orientation, and not know that everybody who applied and got hired on the same day for the same job, same position, in the same room is all in there under different wages. And that's because it's not public. It's because it's private. And the corporate people who actually do this underhanded, I'm going to pay this person this, that, and the other, they love it that way. They keep it that way on purpose so they can do what they want to do. Or like, a lot of bosses don't like when their employees know that they make about 50 to 70% of what they make.
Yeah.
especially when you know the grunt work is done at the bottom. You know what I mean? There's decisions being made at the top, and that's cool.
Right. Tim, is there something to be said about us negotiating our worth? Would that help this whole income inequality gap?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I will say this: being in HR and giving salaries out, I think not a lot of Black people negotiate their salaries.
Yep.
They're afraid
Right.
because they're just trying to get their foot in the door.
Trying to get
They're
that
afraid
job.
they're going to get passed over, and they're not confident in their own worth. So I would say Black people have to be more confident in their abilities, and they have to be more confident in asking for more money. And before you accept that offer, do your research. See how much the average they're paying out. See what the high tier is that they're paying out in your city, and ask for it. I mean, the worst thing to say no is counter offer. It may be a little less, but I would always say shoot higher than what you expect, because by 9 times out of 10 they're gonna give you. Okay, so and then the other thing to your point is talk about your salary. Companies don't want you to talk about your salary unless it's against the law. In some states, you might want to look this up, because in some states you can't talk about it, but for the most part you can talk about your salary. So if you are not like in HR like I am, you can still reach out to your employee relations. You can still contact HR and say, hey, do we have an equity team within our organization? Do we have any team that supports African Americans or young professionals or LGBTQ or whatever the case may be, whatever you align with, join those. So that way you can give input to your organization and say, hey, are we doing surveys to make sure that equity is fair within our organization? Most organizations talk about diversity and inclusion, but equity is also a thing. So if you're not talking about it, they're not going to talk about it. They're not just going to shift it because you at home talking to your friend about it. You got to talk to them. Talk to them who are able to make those decisions. And they are. Like when you're doing your annual reviews, companies like Charter, they have equity where they make sure that you're aligned with your other partners. So you're receiving those increases. It's a lot of great companies out there that lead with equity because they don't want to be one of the ones that's getting called out and sued. So I would just say, don't be afraid to be vocal about your conversation, especially if you are a Black woman, and then especially if you're a Black individual, period. Just make sure that you are, unafraid to have that conversation around your compensation. It's always good. If you have a white ally or somebody who's an ally within your organization, they can say, hey, I get paid this. Maybe they can write you a recommendation so that your compensation can be aligned.
Right. Like I like what you saying, like in the military, it's just kind of the same way, you know. No, everybody's salary is open and you can see what the military makes. Like it's just open. It's just whether you've been in longer or your prior service or whatever. But one thing that battalion commanders like, is when we're invested and like you saying, understanding the equity a company makes is out there. You have to ask those questions. Once you go into a company, if you're invested into that battalion, invested into that company, you understand what they're doing. So then it's like, oh yeah, well, sir, hey, or ma'am, this is what we do. Well, this is what I want to do to help make this organization better. And it's like, it's the same way. Employers want to know that you know about their company, that you know what you're getting yourself into. Because if you know what you're getting yourself, then you can put that negotiating thing on the table. Like, okay, well, this is what you starting out, but this is what I know that I'm worth. What you want to do? You want to counter off of that? And most employers, they want to see that you're not afraid, that you know your worth, that you're not afraid to come at them like, hey, look, this is what I know that I'm worth. Either you match it or I'm going somewhere else. And if they really want you, they're gonna take you. They're gonna pay you what you're worth, and then some. If you really know how to put it on the table, and you do it in the way that respectful way. Yeah. And that's just like military. If I know what I'm getting into, and I can tell that battalion commander, hey, this is what my company does. This is what I can do for your company. This is how I can help you logistically. Oh, I'm in there. I done bought into that battalion commander because now he knows that I'm invested in what he got going on, what there is going on in that company, and that's just being a soon-to-be commander. So it ties in the same way. Not a salary, but I get that most qualified, because I know how to integrate with everybody else. So.
One thing we do as a culture, though.
Leave like 20,000 on the table.
on the table.
I will
Hold on,
say,
let me get that
people will
20K.
leave 20,000 on the table because they have not asked for it. They just accept anything. We have
Yeah.
to stop just accepting anything. We have to start demanding, and not just
Right.
compensation thing, with everything, with our rights, with every single thing. As
Yeah.
African Americans, we have to demand it. Okay, stop leaving
Right.
that money on the
Yeah.
table.
We
Like,
gotta
just
also
because,
be
just
comfortable with asking questions too.
right.
We can't just
Like,
go
just
in
because,
blindly. Like, even if you working for McDonald's, man. I mean, my parents, you know, God bless them, they was trying with how, you know, they're from the 50s and the 60s, so the culture of getting your foot in the door was agree to whatever shift they want to give you, whatever they gonna give you, you just get the job. But as I get older, I'm like 25, 26, like, wait a minute, these type of tactics are the reasons why I'm making less than my counterparts. To where my dad comes back around after he's retired, like, oh yeah, you didn't ask him for more, or you didn't, I could do that. You told me to get in the door and take all the weekend shifts and what everybody won't do. Well, yeah, you could ask. Since 30, I've always come in, okay, what are you offering? Then I'll ask for whatever more, whatever they ask, just to see if they can say no, or it's up to them. But I think we need to hand those tools to our youth,
our
the next
children.
generation,
Yeah.
to let them
Like,
know that not only go for yours and really go after it, but in the first place, before we even get started, speak up for yourself.
right.
Ask.
And then
Ask questions.
we got to stop letting the thing of, oh, you went to Harvard and I went to a HBCU, I went to a PWI and I went to HBCU, be a difference. At the end of the day, it's still the same piece of paper.
Yeah, I agree. It's not a difference because I went to an HBCU. But when I go into a company, I look at it as a degree. So I see you, Dwayne. I look at it as a degree, and for me, like what Tam was saying, I research. I research the company, I research the position, and I research different questions to ask that employer because I don't want to be taken advantage of. I also research salary too. So it's a lot of things that you have to do. You have to be smart. I know for us as African Americans, I mean, when we go into a position, we aren't equal to our white counterparts. So we do have to go in there and sell ourselves, plus know what we're selling ourselves to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Trisha Ann says, absolutely true. Having worked in HR for years, Black people would accept anything just to get in the door. No negotiations, just took what was offered to them. That's true. We be thirsty. We just gotta get what we need. Whatever you give me, master, give it to him, master.
Yeah, and you should never go into a job without one. Like when I'm looking for something, I'm currently working, so I never want to not be unemployed. Well, be unemployed and then trying to go into a job because that will make you thirsty.
Exactly. So, that's what I tell my little sister now. She's currently going to Norfolk State, and she working. But she's like, bro, I want a different job. I said, well, don't quit the job you got until you find something better.
Right, for real.
Hold on to that job until you find something better.
Good stuff, man. This is a good conversation. We're over time, but I really appreciate you all for coming on and chiming in and providing
DJ,
great. What's that?
What DJ just say?
Yeah, what did he say?
The topic is, what's the reason for the wealth gap?
Oh, yeah.
We get one person want to give the answer. The reason. What's the reason?
Tam.
Tam.
What's the reason for the wealth gap? Tell about the gun line, boss.
Oh man.
The reason for the original wealth gap was bias and the fact that Blacks obviously couldn't get any jobs except for serving our counterparts. It started since the beginning of time. We couldn't get any leadership roles. We got the roles where we had to serve others. Obviously, it started with that. There was no way where we could get promoted. They would bring other counterparts in with no education, no experience, and promote them over us. They've done that for generations, right? And then now it's really hard to see Blacks in leadership. Even now, there's still a gap in how we're presented in corporations. Even now, with same qualities and sometimes with a degree over people who don't have a degree are still getting those roles over us. So that's absolutely the first reason, the bias, right? We have bias, but then we also have our part where we could do our part, which is asking for more money and being okay with leaving organizations that don't want to pay us what we're worth. We have to break away from that mentality. What our parents told us, get a good job, stay there and work your way up. You don't have to do that no more. Too many people out here hiring. Good organization, Amazon, all these tech companies that are blowing up right now while we sitting at home in quarantine, making billions of dollars each year, trillions of dollars each year. Those companies are hiring, they're growing. And if you're not in that skill trade, I would say pick another trade. If it's not paying you what you need to be making, if you find that customer service is only paying you so much and you reach your cap, it might be time for you to change your career. We have an opportunity. As long as you got breath in your body, you got an opportunity to keep increasing and keep growing and keep doing better. So one part, we're always going to have the bias there. I don't want to say we always going to have it, but we have it right now. We're going to do our best to work towards equity within those organizations. But the other piece is just making sure you know what you're worth and you know what that company is willing to offer you based on what you're worth.
Yep.
I know.
I agree.
Those were the final thoughts. We're gonna take that. We appreciate it. Thank you guys for coming on. This has been TFG Tonight. We will be back on Friday, and it's gonna be straight politics on Fridays. Straight politics. The Republican National Convention is going on this week, so I'm sure there's gonna be some fun and stuff to talk about as well. So I check it out just for y'all, so I can find the fun and stuff.
Them shenanigans. That
I don't want to watch. Probably gonna be a snooze fest. We'll have some other controversial topics to talk about, the Postal Service and what's happening with that, which I want to talk to tonight. We won't have time. Why black folks vote Democrat. No, I'm not trying to start no mess today. But we're gonna talk politics. We're gonna talk about why we need to get Trump out and get some normalcy back in the White House, and then get Biden out and get some normalcy back even out there. Anyway, all right.
We don't. Hey,
what y'all say?
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter. That what you said?
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Breonna Taylor, all George Floyd, all them.
Say your name.
Keep saying their names.
Keep saying their names.
One last thing. I'm gonna tease this.
Yesterday.
Yep, dude. What's his name?
I don't think they put his name out yet, unless. Okay, there you go.
Jacobs.
Jacob.
We'll talk about that on Friday, and we're also going to talk about Ice Cube's the demands that Ice Cube has for black folks. Okay, we got to do 5 more minutes, Tam. Okay, listen, Tam. We talked about something. If Trump decided to give us reparations, would you
go there? Don't go
Here
there.
we go.
Don't go there.
We'll talk about it on Friday. All right, thank y'all for tuning in.
Yes, if it's guaranteed limit, yes. Guaranteed reparations.
Guaranteed.
I don't want no reparations.
No, he gonna make us slaves again. No.